Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in. This is my third Whip and Chat video. I've been promising this to you guys for, I don't know, about a week or two. It's been something that I've wanted to get into since I started doing this. I was going to do it over the weekend, and then I just got into a funk. I don't know if you guys saw my last Whip and Chat video, but if you did, you saw how excited I was on that day to come home and talk to you guys and just kind of release the anger, I guess, at the time that I was holding on to. And then this is a perfect example of how I can go from in that video, I was like, yeah, Whip and Chats are great, and I'm going to keep doing them because they make me feel better, which is true, but at the same time, my messed up, crazy, bipolar head, now is I don't really want to do one. And for days, I don't really want to do one. But I forced myself to do it because why not? And part of me is wondering if maybe it's because of what I'm about to talk about, and it's just that, that inner, whatever you want to call it, in me, fighting, no, we don't want to talk about that. But I've had to talk about it so many times because of, well, I'm about to tell you kind of why it led to that. So anyway, thank you so much for joining in. If you're new, I do have 2 other videos that explain a little bit about me, kind of a lot, but again, there's much more to come than what you guys have heard already. So the focus of today's video is going to be my hashtag Me Too story. And the reason that I decided to do it is because it is public knowledge already anyway. And I am tired of feeling unheard. I'm tired of feeling silenced. I'm tired of, and I think I did this in a previous video, criminal justice system, whatever, what you want to call it, because that is so frequently not at all what happens. People don't get justice. And, in my case, I don't feel as though I got the justice that I should have. So let me get into kind of what happened. I'm not going to go into a bunch of detail about the specific incident, but I'll give you guys enough to know so that you know what I'm talking about. So I was molested, and when I say that, I mean inappropriately touched. I want to clarify, or I don't, that's not the word, but whatever. I guess I want to state that no, I was not raped. But it doesn't matter. You don't violate anybody by touching them unless they consent. I was 13 years old. I was being babysat. It was me and my, at the time, 9-year-old brother, by my cousin. There was some kind of a family emergency. I think my grandfather he definitely did at one point get a kidney transplant, and I think that might have been when this happened. But anyway, my cousin was married at the time to a, excuse me, and again, excuse the beeps on the phone, I have to have it on during the day. So my cousin was married at the time to a police officer. I am also not going to state where or, sorry, I said where or in what county, for my own protection and privacy, because again, although it's public, it's not. So you'll get what I mean in a minute. Long story short, we had my parents dropped myself and my brother off there, and we had to spend the night because they had to be at the hospital or something for somebody's, I think it was my grandfather needed surgery. I could be wrong, but it was some kind of a family thing. My cousin went to bed. her I used to have no problem with. I actually used to look up to her like quite a bit, and she helped me through some really crazy stuff that I had gone through previously. But then this happened. Well, she found out about this happening. Again, I'll get to the details in a little bit. But I used to like adore her. So she was babysitting me and my brother. Me and my brother were like watching TV in her living room. She had gone up to bed. Her and the guy, the man, whatever, I don't even like to call him man, but whatever, that molested me, have two sons together. So that makes their two sons my second cousins. And my extended family is so big that, like, if I have a technical second or third cousin, they're just my cousin. But for the sake of the story, my cousin and child molester have two sons together who are my second cousins. So my cousin had taken their kids to bed, and me and my brother again were like just hanging out in the living room watching TV. So my brother had, like, rolled over to go to bed. Like, he was on one, like, I guess he was on like this, like the love seat. So like here's the love seat, and then like here's like this long couch, and then like here's the TV, right? And there's like a wall behind the TV. So my brother is on this love seat facing the love seat, so he's facing this way, and I am on the long couch facing the TV. And my brother appears to be asleep. Whether or not he was, I don't know. But anyway, Mr., as I'm just going to call him, child molester, pedophile, whatever I guess I feel like saying at the moment. This is not easy for me to talk about, so I apologize if I'm tripping over my words or whatever, but it's like infuriating as all. And I've already had to restate it for, again, reasons that I'm going to get into in a minute. But so he walks in from work as a cop, obviously, and he walks into I think he said like, hey, whatever. And at the time, like, I never really liked him. And a lot of people in my extended family didn't. But he never did anything to me. So I was like, oh, whatever. I'm not going to be mean to the dude. And I'm 13 at the time. So I say hi. And I just kind of assumed that, like, he's going to go to bed with his, at the time, wife. And he instead goes into the kitchen, grabs a beer. I believe he took off his belt. Sorry again for the beeping. So like his gun and all that crap weren't on him, but he was in uniform, and that is relevant for a reason that I'll get to in a little bit. So he does not remove his police uniform. Again, like, I'm like 99.9% positive he did remove the belt, because I am pretty sure I would have known, excuse me, if he had come and sat next to me with like a gun right there. So he sits down next to me, like close next to me on the couch, and I'm like I didn't say anything, but I'm like, that's weird. Like, there's this whole couch, and he's got to sit right there. But okay. I also, my cousin had given me and my brother, pillows and blankets. So I had like a blanket over me as I'm watching TV, and like I think there was like a pillow, maybe two, behind me at the time. So he plops next to me, puts the blanket that I'm already using on top of myself and on top of him, and then proceeds to do what he did. And again, I really don't want to get into the details of what happened, because the people who need to know. All that I really want to say in this video is that he touched me inappropriately. I froze at first, and then thank God, like, I guess my instinct kicked in, and I started like laughing as loud as I possibly could within maybe 15 seconds of his hand being in a place where it shouldn't have been. I was like, I need to I need to do something. Like, because I was too afraid. I'm 13 years old. I'm too afraid to like scream at the top of my lungs, which now in hindsight I wish I would have done, but I was too afraid. So I just started like laughing like forcefully as loud as I possibly could, and thank God my brother heard it. And he like rolled over, and he said, he was like, Lise, what are you laughing at? And I have no idea why I said what I did, but I said the voices in my head. And then child molester guy cracks up laughing, and he goes, he said something to the effect of like, that was such a great answer or something like that. And at that point, I think, now if I was 13, that means my brother was 9. So I don't think like he knew what at the time what was going on, but he knew that something wasn't right. I could tell by the way that he was looking at me. And he stayed, my brother, thank God, stayed like facing me. And then the dude at that point like got up and was like, oh, I'm going to bed, guys. And we were like, yeah, okay, good night. And it was that night, although, and I am so grateful obviously that it never went any further than that I got the attention of my brother when I did, because it could have gotten 10 times worse. It didn't. And I am, again, as grateful for that as I am. The fact that anybody, like, especially a grown man, especially your cousin's husband, let alone somebody who's also a police officer, that would even think to do that, like, it's still just beyond me. So I ended up, and again, this all it's I feel like with a lot of people that have been through things like this, they don't realize like exactly how much of an effect it had on them until like they're way older. And up until that point, like literally up until that night, like I was a relatively happy 13-year-old. Like I didn't really think about negative things. I hadn't even kissed a boy yet. And I'll just come right out and say it. I didn't lose my virginity until I was almost literally like within a month of being 18, which, think what you want about it, but like, most of my friends lost their virginity when they were anywhere from, I would say most of them lost it before they were 16. That was something that for me, I took very seriously, and I don't know how much it had to do with what happened to me, but I can tell you that that night changed my entire life. I started to physically hurt myself. I went into severe bouts of depression to the point where like I had to commit myself to psychiatric facilities. Like I wasn't like gone, like I was there, I knew who I was, I knew what was going on, but I wanted to die, like legitimately wanted to take my own life, and I attempted to do so on 3 different occasions. And one of the biggest things that I remember about like when you go into a place like that and they interview you, they ask you like, have you ever been, sexually abused or inappropriately touched or whatever? And I always lied. And I don't know why I did that. I think a big part of it was because I felt like, and again, I was 13. So like I knew right from wrong. I knew that what had happened was wrong, but like in the back of my mind, I felt like if I say anything, then like this man's so my second cousin's like dad isn't going to be around. And that bothered me. Like I know like in hindsight it shouldn't have, because now I literally found out like less than 3 months ago that this dude hasn't even talked to either one of his sons in over 3 years. And I'm just gonna say it. I really don't even. I don't care. I really don't. if my second cousin who told me what I'm about to say sees this, I'm sorry, but I'm pretty sure everybody else knows. So he told me one of the two of my second cousins, I ran into him at a store, and he told me, hold on, there's a cat about to jump, I think, and she may or may not knock the phone over. Charlotte. She's going nuts. Anyway, if the phone falls, I'll put it back. I run into one of his sons at the grocery store, and he tells me that he hasn't talked to either one of his parents, so my cousin or her now ex, the child molester, and he said it had been 3 years. Yeah. Okay, and this was a couple months ago, so it was before I turned 34, before my 34th birthday. Now, here's the weird part about that. I'm sorry. I also found out that the main reason that his dad, child molester, decided that he wasn't going to talk to him anymore, my second cousin, is because my second cousin is gay and told them, his mom and dad, that he was gay, and pedophile man is apparently homophobic. Go figure. Like, I don't really want to get on to like how I feel. I don't care if you are gay, straight, transgender, whatever. I don't care what you look like. I don't care what you identify as. I treat people based on who they are as a person, who they treat me, and basically just like I would treat anybody else. Like, I don't care how you identify. I don't care. Like, I don't judge people like that. That's none of my business. I have another cousin who is transgender, and his own grandmother literally like wrote him off in the beginning. I believe things have since changed, but like my cousin who is transgender actually lived with me for a short period of time. That's how much like that it doesn't bother me, because I don't think that it should. If you don't want to be transgender, and I don't even like saying it that way, because I don't think want to be transgender is like the way to word it. If you're not transgender, fine. You don't have to think about it anymore. But like, if you have a family member that is transgender, who are you to try to assume that you know what it is that they're going through? Like, I don't even really want to go there, because I know people are going to argue with the, like, you're born how you're born, and if that's how you feel, fine. I'm not going to judge you for feeling how you feel either, but just know that, like, I have a special place in my heart for people that I care about who do identify as gay, lesbian, transgender, amongst the multitude of other things, and I'll never judge them. So just please don't judge them on my channel or to me. Just keep it to yourself, because I don't understand what the public outroar is regarding that stuff anyway. So back to the story. So it happens, and I'm thinking that, like, if I go say anything to anybody, that I'm going to take pedophile man, whatever you want to call him, away from his, at the time, two sons who, God, they would have been, like, younger than my 9-year-old brother at the time, I'm pretty sure. And I didn't want to do that. I was scared. I don't know. So it ate at me. And when I tell you ate at me, like, the feeling that I carried around with me for the next 4 years until I finally spoke up about it, like, literally, like, screwed me up permanently, or at least until, like, no, it's permanent, because there's certain things that just, like, my brain, I guess, like, just looked at things and, like, so much differently than it used to. And I don't know. So again, I can't, this is hard for me to say, it's hard for me to talk about. I'm sorry if I'm not making much sense right now, but I'm trying to tell this story to help other people, and I have to get it out in order for that to make sense. So just bear with me. So anyway, I bottle it up. I attempt suicide 3 times. From the time that it happens until I'm I think 17. I am cutting myself, burning myself, so all kinds of self-harm. Started smoking pot, started smoking cigarettes, I went from like this straight A, relatively like nerdy type kid who like really cared about school and really didn't really care too much about fitting in. Like I was who I was, and the way that other people felt about it didn't bother me. Like, I was like a typical middle schooler, like day to day, oh, this boy's cute, blah blah blah. Like, that is middle, like you're supposed to be somewhat innocent at that age, mostly innocent. And I went from that to this shell of a person, is the only way that I can really explain it. And I have no idea why I waited as long as I did to finally speak up. But I waited until I was 17. And when I tell you that, like, I I ran away from home, I skipped school, like I just was trying so badly to fight this. It was like a sick feeling. I don't know how to put into words what I felt after this happened to me. It was like I constantly felt nauseous, legitimately sick to my stomach, like I was going to throw up. Like no matter what I did, whether I said something or whether I didn't do something, I felt like I was doing the wrong thing. um and the one day, I'll never forget it. It was like a Saturday afternoon. I had been in my room, curled up in a ball. I had been on I don't even know how many antidepressants, mood stabilizers. My parents had taken me to all kinds of different therapists and shrinks, and I always lied about that one question, which, now being 34, it's like no wonder why they ask you that question, because clearly it can have a really, really big impact on you as a person, the reason that you're doing the things that you're doing. I just thought that, I don't know. I don't know what I thought, to be completely honest, but it was always eating away at me. And I finally, like, I woke up the one day with this sick feeling that I literally carried with me for 4 days. And I was like, I have to do something. I can't live like this anymore. This man and his actions have literally made me not want to live anymore. So I decided, and I don't regret this actually at all. I went downstairs. My mom wasn't home. I think she was at work, and I was like, all right, I got to tell my dad. And I knew, you guys don't know my dad, but trust me when I tell you, like, I was part of the reason that it took me as long as it did to say anything is because I knew that the second that I told him, he was going to freak. Because let me tell you right now, if anybody ever so much as lays a hand on my daughter, hell hath no fury. I'm just going to leave it at that, because I can't really say what I'm thinking. I just can't. But she's not going to be the one that happens to. And if she is, the dude or whoever is not going to get away with it. It will not be an option. And I'm just going to leave that at that. But anyway, I go downstairs and I'm like, Dad, I need to talk to you. Now, me and my dad are like this. We are like, we like are joined at the hip. We always have been. And I go downstairs and I'm like, Dad, I really need to talk to you about something. And I just start bawling. And he's like, okay. Like, he's really good at staying calm when I'm losing my ish. Especially when I was younger, but because now it doesn't happen as frequently as it did. But like when I was younger, he'd be like, all right, like take a deep breath. And then I just came right out and I said, like 4 years ago, when you and Mom had dropped me and Ryan, my brother, off at their house, he inappropriately touched me, and my dad's face turned like so red that I literally, like, I started panicking. I'm like, oh my God, he's gonna have a heart attack. He's like, first, like, he's staring me in the eyes, and then he just like looks out the window, and I'm assuming, I don't know what he was thinking in that moment or if he even was, but he gets up, he grabs his car keys, and he storms out the door. And I am screaming at the top of my lungs like, Dad, you can't go over there, because I knew it. He was going to kill him. I said this to... I did go to the police. I'll get there in a minute. And I literally said to the police, I'm pretty sure that my dad was going to go kill him. That's just, I know my dad, and if it were me, that's what I would do, or at least that would be my initial, like, instinct. And I'm not even kidding when I tell you I had to, like, grab my dad by the arm and yank him. Like, Dad, if you kill him and you go to jail, I don't have you anymore. So I need you to come back in the house. This is why I didn't want to tell you. And something clicked, and he listened, and he came back in and, like, threw the keys on the table, and he, like, sits on the couch, and then he's like, what do you mean? Like, and I told him everything that happened, and he just, like, gives me a huge hug, and he's like, all right. And I'm like, well, what are we going to do about it? And he goes, for right now, nothing. And I'm like, what? Like, that's not at all what I expected to happen, but okay. And, like, my dad doesn't do things without, like, especially when he's mad. He will not, like, react. And that was why I got scared when he grabbed the keys like that. Like, even if it's something really bad, he does not do anything without, like, fully thinking it out. Even if it takes weeks, months, however long it may be, like, that's just not how he is. Like, he will come up with a plan, and then I'll look at all the different possible outcomes, and then he'll proceed from there. So I'm like, all right. So he knows. Now I told him, and I guess he's going to think this through, and then he'll come back to me at some point, and we're going to deal with it. So I also, told my mom not long after I told my dad. I don't know how much the two of them, my parents, discussed it or whatever, but I also told my mom, and she just was basically like, okay, like, you know, like, it happened, and it could have been so much worse, and she kind of said, like, you need to let it go. And I was really pissed about that, and when I ended up going to the police, we got to the bottom of that, and she feels really bad about it now. She has been through similar things throughout the course of her lifetime, and has now admitted that is not at all how she should have reacted. She did believe me. She admitted that to the cops, too. 1 second, I'm getting thirsty. So, whatever. Both of my parents find out. I need to grab a water bottle because the Coke is just, like, I'm really thirsty. So, I'm going to keep talking. But they now both know. Both of my parents know. So, okay, then, and again, in my previous 2 videos, if you guys haven't seen them, so now in this video, first of all, I go into, yes, I used to hurt myself. Yes, I have attempted suicide on 3 different occasions. Yes, I skipped school. I started smoking pot at 12 and cigarettes at 13. Or, I'm sorry, pot at 13, cigarettes at 14. It was after the incident with him that I did any of that stuff. Yeah, it was pot at 13, cigarettes at 14. And then if you've watched my other videos, you know that I eventually got addicted to really hard drugs. If you haven't seen them, I just told you, I will have 10 years sober in June. It's May of 2022. In June of this year, I will have 10 years sober from everything. So give me 1 sec. I'm really thirsty. Okay, fast forward. Years go by. I had done an extensive amount of research online, like I basically wanted to know how long I had to decide whether or not I wanted to go to the police. Obviously, I asked my dad, like, are we going to go to the police? And he was like, nope. And I'm like, why not? Like, obviously, I wanted to know the answer to that. So my dad, I have to admit, although like I still was like, I really don't give a shit what the outcome of that one was, and that's really messed up. But his reasoning for not wanting me to go to the police is because I have an aunt on my dad's side, so my dad's sister, who was raped by another one of my aunt's children's fathers. So like I'm gonna make up the names. I don't have any aunts by these names. So my aunt Jane had a son with a guy named I don't know, like Kevin. So Aunt Jane has a son with a guy named Kevin. Then Aunt Jenny gets raped by the same Kevin that got my Aunt Jane pregnant. I think that made sense. See what I'm saying? And the second aunt had the baby. So I to this day I have two cousins who are half brother and sister as a result of rape. And it just so happens, and again, I don't care if you see this and you told me it's none of my business. It is my business because it happened to my dad's sister, and yeah, I can talk about it if I want to. So be mad. The cousin that was the product of that rape is the one who was married to the police officer who molested me. As coincident, or whatever, coincidental as that may be. So like you'd think that she would have had a little bit more compassion, but apparently not. Whatever. So there's that. And my dad witnessed my dad witnessed his own dad take the guy who literally raped my dad's sister, got her pregnant, and she chose to keep the baby, who was my now cousin that was married to the cop. And this guy, even though I don't think you really need much more evidence other than here's the baby and we did a DNA test and it's his, and yeah, this baby was a product of rape, and the guy got probation. He got probation. And I said to my dad, how is that even possible? So apparently the rapist guy was, or his family, or I don't know, was really, really, really good friends with the judge, or they had pull, basically. And I don't know about in other states, but again, here in friggin' Pennsyltucky, as I call it, Pennsylvania, because it's with the ass backwards laws and whatever. Oh my God, it's infuriating. How can you rape somebody and impregnate them, and then they keep the baby, and then the dude still gets probation? I would give anything to be a judge, man, because I'm telling you, not a single mother effer that wanted to touch little kids or rape anybody, you would do life. I don't care. Or you would do the maximum. I know people are gonna be like, nah, they can't get life. Whatever the maximum is, and then you would get. I would force the whatever. I'll just be here all day going on a whole ass rant about that. It makes me so pissed off. It's not even funny. So long story short, my dad didn't want me to go because he knew, and I have to give him credit. He was right. I hate when I have to admit that, but he was. He was like, Lisa, I believe you with every fiber in my being. He was crying at one point, it was bad. I was like, Dad, how is this motherfucker just gonna get away with it? I didn't even want to do it. I didn't even want to go to the police because they have kids, but if I don't say anything, I'm never gonna feel better, and I have to care about myself. It's time that I start caring about myself and stop self-mutilating and using drugs and all the other crap that I used to do to try to numb it. I was like, I need to fix myself and get better, even if that means potentially hurting my two second cousins, and as in the process, I have to do something. So it was, again, it's happened when I was 13. I spent years looking up the laws and all of that. So I had done enough research to know and figure out that the statute of limitations, when an adult either rapes or sexually abuses a minor, and I believe as long as the minor is under 18 years of age, that the minor has until their 30th birthday to report it. At least in the state of Pennsylvania, I know for a fact that was the law at the time that I reported it. I had heard, and I had been following it for a little bit recently, like within the past year or two, that I think the state of Pennsylvania was trying to get rid of that statute of limitations altogether so that you can report it. Like if you are sexually like abused, assaulted, raped, whatever, when you're a minor and when you're under the age of 18, that there is no like time limit. Like you could be, 90 and walk into a police station and report it if you want to. Now, that's a thing that like has always made me wonder, like, why? Why does that law exist? Why do they give you until you're 30 years old to say something? Obviously, because they know that people are afraid to speak up. Even when it's not a cop that did it to them, there's still so many people, both male and female, because there are a lot of male victims to this as well. I want to make that very clear. I know people that it's happened to. It is not just females that get abused by older people. It can be males abusing females, females abusing males, males abusing males, females abusing females. Like, it doesn't matter. Some people are just sick and they don't care, and that's the world we live in. So anyway, I'm gonna try to get down to like the what happened and the lack of justice, if you want to call it that. So I walk into the police station. I had deliberated over this for years, over a decade, literally. And I finally, like, I'm like, oh my God. And now it is, I believe I walked in on like March 8th or 9th before, and my birthday is March 22nd. So I'm like, all right, I'm just going to do it. I was like, I had mustered up the courage, and I walk into the police station and I'm like, I am here to report, like sexual assault, because that's what it's called. And then they have like two detectives come out and they want to know who it was and blah, 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 blah. And as soon as I give them the name, the look that those two detectives gave one another was like, I'm like, well, what was that? Like, were they in shock? It definitely wasn't disbelief. It wasn't a look like, nah, there's no way. It was a look like, it's like it almost, I don't know, I can't say this for a fact, but it looked like I wasn't the first person who had gone in there and said that he had done something to this effect. But whatever, I don't know. Again, the look that they gave each other was really strange, but I don't want to speculate. So they are like, okay, when did it happen? And of course I told them, I said, I feel like an idiot, but I was 13 and I'm about to be 30. And one of the other first questions that they asked me is, why did you wait so long? And I was completely honest. I did not lie about anything when I talked to them. I told them the biggest reason was because him and my cousin have two kids together who are now adults, and I didn't want to like be the reason that their father got taken away from them. And I even told them, I said, I know how stupid it sounds now, because yeah, I've thought about the fact that he could have done it to them. I don't want to believe that he did, but is it possible? Yeah. Also, before I went to the police, I told my cousin, the one that used to be married to him, what happened, and she was defensive, and I'm just gonna leave it. She didn't believe me, even though she said something about like there was one time, and this I will put on here because my mom witnessed it. It's on record at the police department. Whatever. There was one time where, for some reason, I desperately needed a babysitter for my daughter, and my mom was like, we're gonna have to call your cousin. And I was like, nope, not doing that, because child molester might be there. Absolutely not. There's no way. And my mom was like, okay, then I'm going to ask your cousin, like in a roundabout way, if he's going to be there or if he's going to be working. And I think we only had to leave my daughter there for like 2 or 3 hours. And I literally looked at my mom dead in her eyes. And I was like, you have to swear on her, meaning my daughter's life. Like, Mom, like whatever you think about the whole thing, I'm not kidding. If he's going to be there, or if there's any chance that he's going to walk in while my daughter is there, nope. I will figure something else out, or I won't go to whatever it is. It was like mandatory. I think it might have been the child support crap that I had talked about in the last video, and I was like, I will give it up. I am not leaving my daughter with that man under any circumstances. So you need to make sure that for the 2 hours or whatever that we have to be gone, that he's not going to be anywhere around there. So she did. I was there when we dropped her off. I vaguely said something to the effect of like, oh, he's not here now. He leaves to work till 10 or whatever. And my daughter was only there from like, I don't know, like 3 to 5 or something like that. And I was like, all right. And I still didn't want to do it. Not because I didn't trust my cousin, but because like, how am I supposed to know that that's not going to be the day that he gets off work early and strolls in and wants to touch my kid? Because then, like I said, it would have been taken into my own hands, and I'm just going to leave it at that. So I text my cousin a very, very, in the nicest possible way that I could, because it wasn't her fault. And I tell her what happened, and I am like, I don't know like what else to do. I'm trying to get over it. And I feel like at the very least, you should know what's going on. And I send this long text that I saved. I gave it to the police, the whole nine. She calls me the following day and she's like, first of all, why would you ever in a million years leave your daughter with me at the house that he still lived in? And I was like, stop right there, because I already knew you were going to bring that shit up. I made my mom swear on my life and on Brielle's life that she was going to, in a roundabout way, make sure that he wasn't going to be there. And she went dead silent because it obviously clicked. She remembered. And I said, other than that, that is the reason why Brielle's never been at your house, whether you were there or you weren't. I trust you, but I don't trust him. So don't even come at me trying to act like you're going to defend him with, why would I leave my daughter? I never once left my daughter there with him. I left my daughter there with you. But of course, she gets all defensive. Now, yeah, I'm a little bit like pissed off saying it. However, when I went to the police, they said to me, you have to try to put yourself in her shoes. So like, and I did. So I do kind of understand what they were saying. They were like, you called your cousin and you said the man that you were married to and had 2 children with is a pedophile. He sexually abused me. And she, in a couple of hours or however long it took for her to get back to me, had to try to come to terms with that. And they were like, but both of the detectives that I talked to were like, she's not going to come to terms with it that quickly, if ever. Like and I thought about it, and I was like, wow, like if I married like a pedophile or a rapist, yeah, I would be, I don't want to say that I would just deny it though. Like I would want to know. It would be embarrassing, but I can tell you right now, the first thing I would have done is called him and been like, what the F? And then made sure, actually, before that, I would have made sure my kids were okay. Like, whether I told him that somebody had accused him of something or not. Like, did your father ever do anything to you? Like, I don't know. Like, I understand that's a really weird thing to hear after, especially as much time went by. Like, I get that. But I was 13 when it happened, and he's a scumbag, and he took advantage of me. So I tried to go through her and avoid going to the police, and she didn't want to hear it. And then next thing you know, she's like, well, whatever. Like, basically, like, I don't believe you, bye. And then the next thing you know, my phone rings, and it's pedophile man. And he goes, hey. And I'm like, what? Like, what do you want? Because I'm fuming at this point. I'm already pissed off enough that she doesn't believe me. And then I obviously know that she did call him and I did later, like, I calmed down, and she did tell me on the phone call, she's like, I called him and he said that he didn't do it. Well, no shit. Did you really think you were going to call him and he was going to be like, yeah, I did that. I'm definitely a pedophile, and I definitely molested your cousin when she was 13. Well, again, I understand, like, the denial part or whatever, but, like, no shit, you're going to call him out of nowhere, and he's going to be like, of course I didn't do that. So he calls me, and it literally, like, what are you doing? And I'm like, it's 7:30, 8 o'clock at night on a school night. I'm getting my daughter ready for bed. What's up? Like, why are you even calling me? Oh, and he goes, I'll go with you right now to take a lie detector test. We're going to go to the same place. We're both going to take it at the same time. And I was like, no, we're not, because it's 8 o'clock at night, and Brielle has school tomorrow. But I will absolutely take a lie detector test with you at a place that I determine. Now, I'm not an idiot. He's not going to pick the place because he's a cop. He was also, for a very short time, either a detective or a detective in training, and, like, either stepped down or got pulled down or whatever because he's a raging alcoholic. Whatever, that's a whole other thing. And I was like, again, I said, I will absolutely go take a lie detector test, but it's not going to be determined by you, the cop, where it's going to be or who's going to administer it. And I'm also not going to get in the car with you and go with you anywhere on a whim to some random, I don't even know where he wanted to go. And I said, you can set up, like, a time and a place, and then I will make sure that I agree with said time and said place. Because I can't do it on a night when my daughter was in, I don't know, like, kindergarten at the time, and she has school in the morning, and I'm not going to go, again, with you, of all people, to go take a lie detector test right now. But yes, I will absolutely take one, and I made that part very clear. And then it was basically, I don't know why you would accuse me of that, blah 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 blah. So I was like, you know what, like, after that, I told him, like, I'll go again. I said, like, yeah, let's go, but it's not going to be determined by you, and that's not the way this is going down, because you're a cop. So I'll pick the place. I even believe I offered to pay for it, and I also said to my cousin that I wanted no money from pedophile guy because of my past. Everybody just assumed that all I wanted was money. I literally, the police have the text message that specifically said that even if he offered me money, I would never take it. Meaning, no, I was not saying any of this to get a freaking dime out of it. I never once said that. And I was just going over and above to say that even if he turned around and tried to offer me money, I would not take it. I never wanted money. I wanted justice, not money. Money's not going to solve shit. He could have given me $1 million and I still wouldn't feel any better than I do right now. Money isn't going to buy my childhood back. So nice try, bud. So again, I tried to go through my cousin. I tried to handle it even through him as much as I didn't want to, and that didn't work. So I decided I'm going to go to the police. Long story short, I really got to try and cut this down. I walk into the police department. I tell them, I get interviewed. I have to give a written statement, the whole nine. They are, I'm going to admit, I was surprised because I went in there like, they're not going to believe a word that I say because look where I've gotten so far. They literally said, like, they're just, they have this look on their faces like, I don't know, like, how to explain how they look, but, like, I could tell that at least one of them believed me. And then they say, they were like, I did have some evidence. Here's another crucial piece of this. Yes, he molested me when I was 13. There's another part. When I was, I want to say, like 22-ish. I don't know the exact date. He messaged me, first he had just kept messaging me like random crap. Like at one point my brother had tried to become a cop and my brother went on a ride along with pedophile man, which I was pretty pissed off about, but whatever. And he was like, did you hear about me taking your brother on the ride along, and I was like, yeah, and he would just like text me random crap, like Brielle's dad used to give people tattoos, and he had sent me a message about getting a tattoo from Brielle's dad, which I thought was weird, but whatever. And then he was in New Jersey. Again, we're from PA. He doesn't live far from me at all. And he's also not far, where he's a cop is not far from me at all. He was in New Jersey, and he was on police training of some kind. I don't know what exactly he was doing there, but he sent me a text that literally said, if you can get your mom and dad to watch Brielle, I will pay you to drive down to where I'm at and have sex with me, and and he basically said that he would give you the money to have my parents watch Brielle, to have sex with him, and like the gas and the toll money. And I was like, no, and I blocked him. And unfortunately, and I had the messages saved on one of my phones. I made one of, I think it was on my ex's phone, but we couldn't find it for the life of us. So we had all going. I just said for the life of us. I think that came out like it sounded like something else. Anyway, like I had saved all of this. So I go to the police, I tell them everything, and when I leave there, the police, like, they go out and, like, they talk or whatever, they come back in, and they're like, we want to try to get a wiretap warrant against him. And in order to do that, we need a judge to sign off on it. We want to do it within the next day or two. Will you be available? And I'm like, yeah, like, that, whatever. Like, but what do you mean by, because I was like, I don't want to go near this dude. Like, and they're like, no. We're going to go to the district attorney's office, and we're going to have, first they said they were going to have me call him and see if I could get him to admit anything. Because we did have some of what he had sent me on an old cell phone, but we didn't have all of it. So I'm like, oh, okay. I'm like, yeah, let's do it. Like, whatever we can do to get him, So I'm now like, oh my God, like he has no idea. And I still don't even know if he knows that he was wiretapped, but now you know. And it was great. I was like, oh my God, they actually believe me. And little did I know, and then it was the two detectives that told me, like, it's really, really, really hard to get a wiretap warrant on somebody's like public or cell phone line, basically. So we don't know if we're going to be able to get it, but we're going to try. Less than 24 hours later, they call me and they're like, we have the wiretap warrant. I think we only had like 48 or 72 hours to execute this thing. The judge had already signed off on it, and I'm like, whoa, like, sorry if I'm like, we might actually be getting somewhere here. Like, I was not expecting this. So they go, we thought about it, and they were like, how would you feel about having your mom, my mom, go with you? And I'm like, okay, that's fine. So we go to the police station, and the two detectives drive us to the district, the I don't want to say the name of the county, my county's district attorney's office with a wiretap warrant on this POS. My mom calls him first. They were like my mom had, like, we just felt that it would go better if my mom called, because at this point he was aware that I had said something to my cousin. He knew, obviously, or I guess assumed, that my parents were aware that I had said something to my cousin. So the two detectives thought it would be better if my mom at least attempted to try to call him first and see if maybe he would be like more calm with her, whatever the case may be. So my mom calls, and again, he had no idea that this whole phone call was recorded by the district attorney. They are on the phone for over an hour, despite my mom trying to hang up multiple times. He would not admit to molesting me when I was 13. However, my mom said to him, and we had to ask the detectives if we were allowed to lie, and they were like, absolutely, if it gets him to say to admit to what he did. And I was like, Mom, I am telling you that he messaged me. Like for sure, I had them saved on, and the police are still trying to find him. I gave them all of my old phones. They're going through them. I'm like, he messaged me while he was in New Jersey, offered me money to sleep with him, and the police are like, were you over the age of 18? And I was like, I think I was over 21. Not that it mattered. I was over 18. So it was my idea. I say to the detective, I'm like, okay, can we lie and say that my mom saw those messages? And they're like, yeah, you can, whatever, like whatever it takes to get him to admit it. So my mom does. And he, for the first 30 minutes of that phone call, lied through his teeth. I don't know what you're talking about. And she just keeps saying, I saw the text messages or whatever. I don't know if it was Facebook or whatever. I saw what you sent her. You literally asked me and my husband, now this is my mom talking, to watch Brielle so that Lisa could drive to wherever you were in Jersey and have sex with you, and you offered her money. He keeps denying it, and she's like, again, I saw these messages, I have them, and she's lying and saying that she still has them. So he needs to like really cut the shit if she doesn't want us to go to the police. Little did he know we were already there. So see what I'm saying? This is where the story gets it's not good, but I am in another room because I'm like shaking, and it just wasn't a good idea for me to be in there. One of the detectives comes in. They're in another room down the hallway, and he was occasionally like, he would walk into the room that I was in by myself to check on me, make sure I was all right, and then he would go back in to listen in on this phone call, which was supposed to be short, but because of child molester, it ended up being literally over an hour, because my mom would be like, all right, I'm gonna go, and then he would be like, no. I never got to listen to that entire phone call. I heard some of it. I would love to listen to it in full, because he was like, okay, so the detective comes back after he finally says, this is what he says, so my mom will not let up, and she's like, again, I'm just going to keep telling you, and he thinks it's the truth. Like, I saw the messages that you sent her. Why are you lying? And then he finally caves and goes, you know what? Yeah, you're right. I did offer her money to come down to Jersey when I was on training, but she was of age. And that we thought was it. The detective comes into the room that I'm in, and he goes, he just admitted it. And I'm like, oh my God, admitted what? He was like, not that he molested you, but that he tried to solicit you as a prostitute. And I was like, oh my God. Like, I could not believe, like, I was like, are you serious? And he's like, yeah, it's on tape. Like, so in my mind, like, I'm literally in tears. I'm thinking, like, we got him. Like, okay, he didn't admit to molesting me. He was never going to do that. But my mom was so persistent in convincing him that she had actually seen these messages, which she had not. But again, they existed, and the police had all of my old cell phones and were trying to get the records off of them at that point. So my mom finally gets them off the phone. They bring me in, and they were like, do you want to call him? First, they asked me if I would be willing to wear an actual wire and like meet up with him face to face, because apparently he made some comment to my mom about like, I would be willing to meet up with Lisa and talk with her, like just me and her, but in a public place or something like that. Whatever, I don't know. And I said no, that I was not comfortable doing that, because I wasn't. I kind of regret it a little bit now, because that may have been where I finally got him to admit it, because there was also a time where he did meet up with me at a public place when I was at my worst and gave me money for what I said. I lied and said that I needed it for my cell phone bill. I really needed it for drugs. The police know that. I literally told them I was an addict. I lied. I said it was for a late cell phone bill, and they were like, okay, but like, why would you meet him after what happened, and I once again was thoroughly honest, and I said, well, I had a knife right next to me in my purse, so that if he had attempted to pull anything, I was going to stab him. I was completely honest. Again, it's all on record. The police know about it. He did not pull anything. I guess because we were in a very public place and I insisted on it being a public place. But anyway, when he gave me the money on that day, he said to my face, thank you for never saying anything to anybody about what happened. Now, what the hell else would he be referring to? Because the whole trying to get me to sleep with him in Jersey for money thing hadn't even happened yet. The only thing that had happened was that he had molested me when I was 13. And he said to my face, I really wish that I had hit record on my phone, because I was thinking about doing that just in case anything happened, and I wasn't able to hit the button in time before he like saw like my purse, and I was trying to hide a knife. So there was that. Anyway, I got money from him. That was the last time I saw him. I left. I obviously never paid him back. And my mom even said to him on that phone call, because he admitted to giving me the money, and she was like, and you knew that she was on drugs at the time, so why would you give her money? And apparently he was like, I don't know, I believed her. So he looks like a smacked ass, whatever. I really don't care how I look, because I needed money. At that point said, sorry, I'm stumbling over my thoughts here. Thank you for never saying anything to anybody about what happened. Like, that's weird. Like, and he said it all like, like it wasn't that big of a deal. Like, okay. So anyway, sorry, I need to like catch my breath for a second. So the cop comes in, like, we got him. He admitted it. And I'm like, oh my God, like, this guy's actually going to lose his job. The detective also said to me that because he had gone, and so this has nothing to do with actually like molesting me or doing what he did, but because he walked into his house, and on that night that he did molest me, and didn't remove his police officer uniform, went into the kitchen and got a beer, that apparently, according to what this detective told me, is enough for him to lose his job, because you are not allowed to drink while in uniform, even if you're in the comfort of your own home, which I did not know until he told me that. So then all of this is like, everything's recorded on a wiretap. I get to call him, and and he goes, he's like laughing at me and mocking me. And they had told me prior to me dialing the phone call that I could unleash on him. I could scream. They were like, this is going to be your last opportunity to say whatever you want to this guy. And I honestly almost blacked out. I kind of did. I don't even fully remember what I said. Like, I said, I was like, you apparently said to my mom that you would like to speak with me. Well, what? Like, what do you want? And he just started laughing. Like, and I screamed. Like, I was in like an interview room, so I was in one of those like dingy blue chairs, and like around a desk, and I remember, like, I stood up like this, and like the chair flew backwards, and I am screaming at the top of my lungs at him into the phone, over talking to him, like, you, like, just everything that I wanted to say came out. And I actually said, I believe, to him on that call, like, yeah, I remember, like, I said I would take a freaking lie detector test. How come you wouldn't go with me to do that? And he said something like, I don't have to answer that. All right, you're a shady shit, whatever. So anyway, then I hang up, and I'm like, they're like, all right, you gotta calm down. Like, the district attorney was like, completely like mind blown that any of this had just even happened. And she looked at me, the district attorney, and she goes, he is shitting his pants right now. And I'm like, really? Like, so everything at this meeting with the district attorney is leading me to believe that they got him. So then they tell me that there still isn't as much physical evidence as there would like there to be or whatever. And I'm like, he literally just admitted to trying to solicit me as a prostitute on a wiretap warrant, which is like one of the hardest things in the entire world to get, but okay. And then they were like, we're gonna have to let his police department do like an internal affairs investigation. And I'm like, all right, whatever, like let me know. And I said, so that's it, like, so I'm gonna leave. And again, like, the detectives are like, well, he admitted to it, so we can't tell you for sure like what the outcome's gonna be, other than the police department that he works for has to do an internal investigation. And then the guy doing the internal investigation calls me and he introduces himself and he's like, I'm gonna need to talk to you. I'm going to need to talk to your dad, your brother, because my brother was the only one that was there and witnessed it and was able to testify that, yes, I did start cracking up laughing. Yes, I did say I was laughing at, like my brother said, what are you laughing at? And I said, the voices in my head. And that was critical because at 9 years old, he remembered that. And for years, he would not talk to me about it at all, which is kind of how I knew that he remembered that something had happened. Maybe not, maybe he didn't necessarily know that I was molested, but like he told the detective, that my brother, that he did remember me saying, or he remembered saying to me, I'm sorry, like, what are you laughing at? And that I said the voices in my head, and that pedophile dude was like, great answer. And that it always bothered my brother, and that when he got older and I told him like what happened, he was also, my brother, as I told you, trying to be a cop at one point in time and didn't want to say anything, which, yeah, I was pissed at him for. He knows that. But whatever, I forgive him now because he finally talked to the detective, the internal affairs guy, and his story completely matched mine. And I told my brother, I said, tell them what you remember. I'm not saying anything. I already gave them my story. If you don't remember, you don't remember. But all I'm asking is that if they call you, please answer the phone and please be honest with them. Like, screw you trying to be a cop. You can be a cop somewhere else. Like, I need you to do this for me. And he did. Then it's like, I think 8 or 9 months went by. My 30th birthday has now passed, but it doesn't matter because I went to them before it hit it. And it's like 9 months later, and they had told me, like, hang tight. Once they're finished with the internal affairs investigation, they'll call you. And I'm like, okay. Now, the police department that I dealt with, which is the one where I happen to live now, and also is the one where the initial incident happened, I found out that at least where I live, you have to go to the police department where the crime initially happened. Like, you can't just walk into a random police station. It has to be the one that you were, the one that, you know, exactly what I just said. Where it happened, that's where I had to go. Even though at that point it had been, you know, like damn near 2 decades at that point. So 8 or 9 months goes by. I've heard nothing. I had reached out to the local police department to ask them, like, have you guys heard anything? And they were like, no. And then I think one of them said, like, if you haven't heard anything, and give it another month, and if you haven't heard anything, you should call the guy at the police station where a pedophile cop works at, and ask for an update, because that's kind of weird that he hasn't called you yet. We haven't heard anything either. And I'm like, okay. I think I waited another 2 months, and I'm finally like, this is bullshit. I'm fed up. I'm calling. Whatever. And in the back of my mind, I'm like, I don't know why I waited this long. What's the worst that can happen? They didn't talk to him yet, or you know what I'm saying? So I call. He doesn't answer. I leave a voicemail. I tell him who I am, and I'm like, please, can you please, like, you told me that you were going to investigate him however long, like months ago, literally months ago, and you said you were going to call me back either way, and I'm just calling to follow up because I haven't heard anything. And he calls me back, I think within maybe a half an hour, after I left the voicemail, and he goes, he's like, hey, how you doing? And oh, I'm sorry. Before I get to that last phone call, me and my mom got called in by the internal affairs guy before they interviewed him. He had listened to the tape. He had then interviewed me again. Basically, I had to do another recount of everything that happened. And he made the comment of, I don't want to use the name, pedophile guy thinks he's the toughest guy in the room until I walk into the room, meaning internal affairs detective investigator guy. And I'm like, okay. And then he goes, so we looked up like our records or whatever, and he was in fact in New Jersey on the date that you claimed that he, and I think I had shown them the act, like the message or something like that, and I was like, I know. Like I literally gave you like all my old cell phones. So he tells me straight up, yes, he was in New Jersey on the exact date when you said that he contacted you and tried to get you to drive down there to sleep with him. And I'm like, okay. And then he goes, the only problem is that the guy that he was with, there's no way that he would ever allow something like that to happen. And me and my mom look at each other and we're like, okay, like I told you what he said. I told you a specific date that it was said with evidence of him saying it. You just told me that you were able to prove that he was there when it happened, but there's a cop there that was with him, supposedly, that there's no way that he ever would have let that happen. And I'm like, what? Like, so I think I said, like, did you ever think that he would do this? Obviously not, because here we are. And then I think I even went further to say, like, he never gave me a specific location of where I was going to meet him. But if he was with another cop, I'm assuming he was going to leave and say he was going to go out somewhere at night because, like, he's an adult and cop or not, I'm pretty sure he's allowed to do what he wants. I don't know, like, just because there was another dude there with him, like, you literally just told me that everything that I told you was found to be true based on, like, you know, police documents. Like, he was in New Jersey on training for training on that date, on the exact date. And then he wants to say some, you know, half-ass whatever about, but the guy that he was with would never let that happen. Whatever. And then I said, what about the lie detector test? What about, like, what can we do that? And he was like, you still, and I said, yeah. Like, he was like, you still want to take the lie detector test? And I said, yes, I would rather take one than not. And then he said, can you do me a favor and say that again? I want to record you saying it. And I was like, sure. I would rather take a lie detector test than not take one. I would rather me and him both take one than not take one. I would rather there be one on file. That is how much I want this prick to whatever, like, get in trouble for what he did. And so he was, you know, he writes that down, records me saying it. And then again, now we're back to, I forgot that part is kind of important because he's like, again, well, you know, this guy that he was with would never let that happen. But now you're, I don't know, like, you could tell that at this point that, like, you know, because this idiot's a cop, he's got pull, obviously, which again, my dad was right. And I knew that, but I felt like I needed to at least try. Long story short, I called the guy, the one that I was just talking to you about that does the internal investigation on pedophile dude. And it's been like 9 months and I'm like, I'm calling for an update. And he's like, and I swear to God, he says, I never called you. I could have sworn I called you. Could have sworn I called you. And I'm like, no. And I'm like really pissed off that he just said that. I'm like, how could this dude forget or not remember whether or not he called me after everything that just happened? And I said no, and it's been like 9 months, and I am like, I've been waiting every single day for the phone to ring, nothing. And he goes, oh, I'm really sorry. So yeah, that's been dealt with. We interviewed him And unfortunately, we didn't have enough information to prosecute him, but he was ordered not to have any contact with you or anybody in your immediate family ever again. And it all ended right there. So after this cop admits to trying to solicit me as a prostitute, they literally have documented evidence of him being in Jersey for police training on the exact date that I gave them, with text evidence on my cell phone from him directly. It wasn't enough. And yeah, after, like, the initial detectives are like, oh, like, he's done. The district attorney has literally said he is shitting his pants right now. I found out that so he was married before my cousin, cheated on his ex-wife with my cousin. Then when him and my cousin split up, he got remarried again to a police officer in the same a female police officer in the same precinct that he works at. And I found out through public record that they got divorced very, very shortly after I walked into that police department. So there's that. He now is, I don't know what's going on in his life other than he doesn't talk to either one of his sons. He is, to my knowledge, now divorced for the third time. And he knows, based on what I was told, that I went to the police. He knows that the district attorney is aware of what he did. He knows that basically the entire county that we live in is aware. If you're a police officer or anybody with, any kind of authority, they know. And I have kind of had to live with that being my justice. So, like, you tell me, does it make any sense that this guy walked, given the fact that I had dates and they were able to verify them, and they're just like, we're gonna make him not have any contact with you or your family. Well, if I hadn't said anything to my cousin about him molesting me in the first place, then I'm pretty sure I never would have heard from him again. But okay, so that is my Me Too story, and I have learned to live with it. I can't say that I've fully accepted it, because I haven't, because I think it's complete bullshit that if you're a police officer, or anybody with any kind of, like, tenure, I guess, I don't even know what word to use, that you basically get, a get out of jail free card. I just saw, and this is part of the reason what made me want to do this video when I did it, I just saw an article pop up on my news feed a couple days ago that was like something like, I don't want to quote it exactly, but it was a 29-year-old woman had walked into a police station because of the statute of limitations, which that actually leads me to believe that the law has either not been changed or passed yet. I'm hoping that they do eventually make it so that you don't have to be, it doesn't have to be before your 30th birthday, like, you know what I'm saying? But anyway, she walked in at 29 years old regarding something that had happened to her a decade or two before, and the guy got in trouble. And I was so happy for her, but my heart broke at the same time, because just like me, she waited until she was just about to be out of time, according to the law, to go to the police. And it bothers me so badly that we victims, and again, when I say victims, I don't just mean women, it happens to men too. Anybody who has ever been a victim of any kind of sexual assault, we are made to feel scared. We're made to feel like it's not okay because, and again, in my case, I wasn't believed. I have an aunt who got pregnant by her sister's, I guess at the time, boyfriend. Like, they were literally like, he raped me and here's a baby. as proof, and that wasn't enough to get the guy in trouble. So they just kind of like, if you're a cop, you can just molest little kids as often as you want, and unless you have some kind of really concrete evidence, like if this sick shit had videotaped it and they had found it, maybe then he would have gotten in trouble. But no. So I kind of just, every time I think about it, I'm like, well, you know what? The entire county knows, the district attorney knows, every single cop that he has to go in and work with every day knows. They may or may not believe me. You'd have to kind of be an idiot not to, because of all of the proof that I had, my willingness to take a lie detector test, which I still never got to do. They can feel free to call me at any point and be like, we want you to come in and take a lie detector test, sign me up, because I'd still rather do it. I may eventually just pay for it with my own money, and then I guess I wouldn't be able to contact him, but send it to the police station. Like, since you don't feel like doing your friggin' jobs, here you go. Here's a copy of mine. Now, but again, what's the point if he's just going to get to keep working and, probably watching all kinds of child porn or whatever. I don't know. I want anybody who is watching this who has been a victim, or if, God forbid, at some point in the future, if you are a victim, please do not feel, I can't tell you not to feel scared. Like, I can't say, like, don't feel scared. But if despite feeling scared, please, 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 please don't wait. As soon as it happens, or if it's already happened and you're like me and have been living in agony for years, decades, whatever, over what happened to you, and you just felt too afraid to speak up, please, please, please speak up. You don't know how many other people your abuser has done this to. You don't know if their name has already been brought up by somebody else. I will literally be with you every step of the way, whether you're local or you're not. Like, if it really comes down to it and somebody reaches out to me, like, I was whatever, abused in whatever way, shape, or form, and I'm too afraid to go by myself, like, if I really have to, I will come to wherever you are and I will go with you. And you have my word on that. We all, every victim, every male, female, whatever, anybody that has been a victim of having your body taken advantage of by somebody that you didn't give permission to, needs to, at the very least, have their name exposed. Whether I can't sit here because of what happened to me and tell you that they're going to get in trouble. They very well may not. But I can tell you that I do believe that a big part of the reason why nothing came of it is because I waited as long as I did. I don't know if I'm accurate necessarily, but I feel like that had something to do with it. So again, my story didn't end too well, and it's something that I've had to learn to live with. And I do believe that at some point in the future, he's gonna get what's coming to him. I'm done. It's out of my hands. I've done everything that I can. But people that molest or get off on the idea of trying to do sexual things with a minor at all, let alone like somebody that's related to your wife, there's a special place for you in hell. Let me just say that. Whether you believe in that stuff or not, like, this dude is not gonna just, like, live a peachy, friggin' happy, keen life. Like, there's no way. Again, just so happens that his newest marriage fails right after I go to the police. I hope to God that she was made aware of it. Not to mention, the chick that he got married to was younger than me at the time that they got married. Like, I think I was 3 or 4 years older than her, and he's in his 50s right now. The dude's disgusting. The warning signs are everywhere. If you are a victim and you have not spoken up, please, please do it. I know it's hard. I know it's not easy to, like, literally drive yourself to a police station and give your account of what happened. Whether you have evidence or you don't, please just know that you're not alone. Some of us can say that, like the girl that I saw in the news the other day that waited till 29 and the guy got in trouble. That's amazing. Some people do get in trouble. You'll never know unless you try. And I am so sick of finding out how many other Me Too people like are out there. How many more people am I going to have to hear say it happened to me too? Or I see a post with hashtag Me Too, and just like me, they're too afraid to speak up. It is not your fault. You should never be made to feel silenced. You should never be made to feel as though you're not worthy enough, or don't have enough evidence or proof or whatever the case may be. Please come to me. I will literally stand by your side, whether I know you or you're a complete stranger, until you are at a point where you feel like you're able to say that you've done everything you can. Because the biggest part of this movement is no longer staying silent. These people need to pay for what they did, and if it means that only a handful of them actually do so, then so be it. But we need to put our feet down, and we need to stop all over the globe and let these assholes know that we're done being scared. We're done letting their positions of authority force us into seclusion and all that. It makes me so mad, especially now that I'm a mother. Again, God bless the mother effer that tries to lay a finger on my daughter, because I can't even say anything, because if the criminal justice would do their jobs, it would be a completely different story. But how, after everything that I just told you, did this man walk away scot-free? Somebody please explain that to me, other than he's a cop and he's got tenure, blah, 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 whatever. I am going to be done my rant for today, because otherwise I'm going to sit here and keep stewing. So that is my Me Too story. And again, the purpose was not to make anybody upset. It's to hopefully, if one person sees this video and decides I can't live with it anymore, I'm done, I'm going to go report it, message me, comment in the video, or their comment section of the video. I'm very worked up right now. I'm sorry. I'm all over the place, but this one was really tough for me to do. I feel better now that I did it, and I will absolutely stand by any single person out there who comes to me and doesn't want to do it alone. I think that's one of the biggest parts of the problem, is that people aren't believed for some reason. I will believe you, no questions asked. You don't have to worry about that. If you come to me and say, what blah 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 happened to me and I want to do something about it, I'm going to be like, let's go. Let's do it right now. If it means I have to drive across the freaking country to make sure that you at least have your voice heard, I will do it. You have my word. To every single person out there that is a part of this movement, whether you've come out about it or not, I am sorry. My heart is with you. You have my everything that I can give to you. You have it. You have somebody that will believe you, somebody that'll listen to you, somebody that'll help you every step of the way. And to anybody that hasn't been a victim of anything like this, please, just, if anybody ever comes to you and says that something like this has happened to them, please believe them. At least give them the benefit of the doubt. I know that there are people out there that for some reason or another, they lie and they say that it happened when it didn't, but they're the rare exception. Most people don't say things like this because I don't understand why people make it up. I really don't. But anyway, again, like I said, if I keep talking about it, I'm just going to go on a rant. So thank you so much for taking the time to watch this. Feel free to reach out to me for any reason, whether it's again, you would like to know more. I can provide people that have been through sexual abuse or any kind of similar trauma with a lot of resources that you might find helpful. So if you need that, feel free to reach out to me. I'm always here and available 24/7. As soon as I see your message, I will respond. Same thing goes if it's a comment or whatever. Anyway, thank you so much for watching my now third Whip and Chat. I'm going to finish the rest of this off camera because, again, I don't even know how long I've been recording for at this point. I appreciate every single subscriber, person that's watched any of these Whip and Chats. Now there's 3 of them, so if you want to go back and watch the other 2, I'd really appreciate it. If you subscribe, thank you from the bottom of my heart. And again, thank you today to everybody who took the time to listen to this video. Love you guys.